GTI. These three little letters are synonymous with the phrase hot hatch. It all started at the 1975 Frankfurt Motor Show, where Volkswagen unveiled the very first Golf GTI. Small, quick and fun, VW only planned to make 5,000 cars. It ended up making nearly 500,000.
Fast forward to today, and there have been more than 2 million Golf GTI sold across 8 generations. 2 million. But of course, our world is changing. It's going electric. And thankfully, Volkswagen thinks that our EV future doesn't have to be boring.
Enter this, the ID.4 GTX. A performance car from Volkswagen but for the electric age, with 2 familiar letters and 1 newcomer. Say goodbye to GTI, say hello to GTX.
That would be the logical conclusion, wouldn't it? GTX is the new electric performance brand. So as we transition away from petrol power, maybe the GTI name will be laid to rest as well. If that's the case, this has some very big boots to fill.
In the floor there's a 77 kWh battery, enough for 298 miles of electric driving. The battery powers 2 electric motors, one at the front and one at the rear, which together give you 299 horsepower. The rear motor alone has 204 horsepower.
As a result, 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 6.2 seconds. 6.2? That's properly nippy. A Mark 8 GTI does 0 to 62 in 6.3 seconds. At low speeds it feels properly punchy as well, more so even than the standard ID.4, and that's saying something because that does feel nippy off the line. The throttle response is sharper too, there's more immediacy right from the top of the pedal. And if things get too much, you can dial it all back with the drive modes. So there's Sport, which is the default, and then there's also Comfort and Eco and Traction and Individual. Because it's all-wheel drive too, you can plant your foot even in the wet and it'll just whip you out of a corner. But then there are a few issues. The original Golf GTI weighed 810 kilograms. The ID.4 GTX weighs 2,224 kilograms. 810, 2,224. Now, of course, I know that these are two very different cars. There's nearly 50 years between the two, and this is an EV SUV. I also know that this isn't a Golf, but still, a Mark 8 Golf GTI weighs 1,463 kilograms. This, 2,224. And you can feel that extra weight. It's quick, but it just feels heavy. Admittedly, a lot of the weight is deep down in the chassis with the batteries, but still, the weight's there. It feels heavy. And I don't have that much confidence piling it into a corner either, because the steering isn't really telling me very much. It's nicely weighted and the car's got loads of grip, but that's about it. The wheel control isn't always that fantastic either. Sometimes you'll hit a bump and it'll just take a second for the wheels to settle. Then there are the brakes, and the feel of the pedal is really quite poor. The ID.4 GTX uses the electric motors to slow you down first of all before the actual brakes get involved, up to 0.3 G, and you recover energy at the same time. Trouble is, the response from the brake pedal isn't particularly linear. It's a little bit of a guessing game. And once you're braking hard enough that the actual brakes have to get involved, you've got 358mm discs at the front and drums at the rear, that transition from just the electric motors to the brakes as well isn't particularly smooth.
There are some plus points to the ID.4 GTX though. At a cruise, the ride is very smooth indeed. The cabin at any speed is very quiet too. You feel very well insulated from the outside world.
All in all though, I still just don't look forward to getting behind the wheel. It might be clever in so many different ways. It might be quick in a straight line. but it just doesn't excite me. And that was my big I wonder when I drove the standard ID4. I wonder how Volkswagen will make the GTX feel different to the standard ID4 and not just quicker in a straight line. Can you compare the experience between a GTI and a GTX in terms of fun? No, you can't. It's not even close.